Joe Biden thought he'd take a page out of Trump's book. And I'm not just talking about the orange, right? Like, have you noticed, by the way, all the makeup that he's suddenly wearing? I mean, it's crazy. Like, he went from like kind of pale to all of a sudden really deep dark orange. I saw a funny meme this morning that was like, there's orange and then there's mandarin. Like, these are the mandarin oranges. So if you got Donald Trump at orange, Joe Biden's dialed it up to mandarin, you guys. He is really looking orange. And now he's calling into his favorite TV shows. Hey, you know what? If Trump can call into his favorite TV shows, I can call into mine. The only problem here is, you see, Biden can't keep talking and talking. He can't seem to finish a sentence. He loses his way mid-sentence. And it's exactly what happened on Morning Joe with Joe and Mika here this morning. I want you to watch him as he starts to go off on France and never completes the thought.
I'm not letting up, Joe. I am not letting up a little bit. And by the way, France registered, look, you talk about Europe.
You know, I'm going to remind you, one of the best things about that debate the other night was that the moderators were not allowed to interrupt, and the candidates weren't really allowed to interrupt. So what happened? Joe Biden would start talking, and then he'd lose his place, because I think there was a 2-minute timer on things, and he can't actually sustain a conversation himself, a dialogue for 2 minutes. He doesn't know where he's going. He loses his place in the middle of that dialogue. And so consequently, what do you know? There were a whole bunch of screw-ups, causing everybody to say we're worried about his cognitive ability. Everybody's saying it, certainly everybody at CNN, including Dr. Sanjay Gupta. This is very interesting. He published an editorial over the weekend, and I want to share some excerpts for you, because he writes about, as a brain specialist, how concerned he is. And he cites not only himself, but others as well, other doctors, other people in the medical profession. Dr. Gupta writes, for me as a brain specialist, it was concerning to watch President Joe Biden. It quickly became clear that I was not alone in my reaction. Over the past week, he writes, I received more than a dozen calls, texts, and emails from medical colleagues who, like me, specialize in the brain. It wasn't that we noticed what was necessarily new, but that it was particularly pronounced and right from the start of the debate. From a neurological standpoint, he writes, in other words, he's not alone. He's making that very clear. We're concerned with his confused ramblings, sudden loss of concentration in the middle of a sentence, halting speech, and the absence of facial animation, resulting at times in a flat, open-mouthed expression. You saw that, didn't you? To be clear, these are only observations, not in any way diagnostic or something deeper, and none of these doctors wish to suggest that was the case. But nonetheless, you know what? It's the elephant in the room. The handwriting is on the wall. And it's not just Gupta saying this, okay? So let's go to the news that came out also over the weekend. The New York Times had asked for some records. They didn't want to give them to the New York Times at first, but the New York Times insisted and wound up getting their hands on some rather disturbing records. You see, there's a neurologist that has been visiting the White House, a neurologist that actually specializes, if you would, in Parkinson's disease, a Dr. Kevin Conard, who came from Walter Reed, and he apparently went there once a month for 8 months beginning last summer, and it continued through this spring. It's a little bit disturbing, especially in that originally, when asked by the New York Times how often had the president met with a neurologist, they were told 3 times. Turns out that's not the case. It was 8 times, once a month. And there's concern, you see, that he might actually have this. Now, a report came out in February saying absolutely not. He does not have Parkinson's or the beginnings of Parkinson's, etc. But nonetheless, people are trying to figure this out. What exactly is it? Now, some medical professionals I've spoken with, and again, this is, me saying what I've heard from medical professionals, and Trish is not a medical professional, although I have had loved ones who have suffered from dementia. These are characteristics that are very similar with dementia. It doesn't necessarily mean Parkinson's. Parkinson's can also have as one of its symptoms dementia, but you can have just dementia without actual Parkinson's. So this is a concern from a lot of people now, including even Dr. Sanjay Gupta. While he doesn't mention Parkinson's and he doesn't mention dementia per se, he's saying that this is not normal, right? From a neurological standpoint, this is not normal. And so how are we going to okay this as a country? How are we okay with somebody who's already clearly dealing with something? All right, that's something. We may not have a label for it yet because they may not want to tell us, but it's certainly something. And you can't boil it down to the elites just trying to take me out, again, as he did on Morning Joe. Let's listen to him this morning. Clip number 9. Because it is getting really ugly here. Okay, so he starts screaming into the phone. Watch, I'm getting so frustrated with these elites. I'm so, you're going to just go back to the well again. It's like the orange thing, the orange man that's turned into Mandarin. He is just trying to copycat Trump on everything. It's like the elites versus me. I don't think so, buddy. Nobody's buying that. Let's watch.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for 2 reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
I think somebody ought to take him up on that. Challenge him at the convention. I mean, if you want a shot, right? I mean, it does put together a different problem entirely, given that he does have the 3,900 votes, and it would be kind of difficult to take them away. But someone's going to do something. I mean, we keep learning person after person after person in Congress, as well as some key senators in the Democrat Party are now saying, wait a second, we got to step back. If you even consider what Nancy Pelosi said last week about him, she left a little cover room there because she has her concerns too. Listen, this is mounting. This is a train that has left the station. And I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think they're going to be able to contain this. Again, going back to what we saw Friday night on ABC, this was his opportunity, right, to kind of pull it together. And even look at his expressions, just as they were in the debate. He's expressionless. You can put a lot of makeup on him. To quote, who is the guy? Henry Blodgett. You can put some lipstick on the pig, so to speak, when he was talking about tech stocks back in the year 2000. He went on to run Business Insider. That was his famous quote. You can put a lot of orange self-tanner and makeup on Joe Biden. It's still Joe Biden at 81 years old.